Hello and welcome to Barely Afraid. Today, we dive deep into some of the most chilling and unbelievable sightings ever recorded of our beloved cryptid king, Bigfoot. Falling in, we arrive at a trail camera of a man named Mike. The story goes that Mike had began to realize he was always hearing weird and strange noises around and behind his house. Initially, Mike wasn't spooked. After all, Mike lived in a wooded area and figured it was just some form of wildlife. However, after checking his trail cams that he had placed around his property, he ran into this photo. Looking closely, you can see what appears to be the face of the alleged Sasquatch. You can see the eyes, nose, and what seems to be the mouth. It has thick brownish tan hair which closely resembles that of a bear. However, from the trail cam photo, it's visibly apparent that this figure is standing on two legs. Looking in closely at its left arm, you can see how long its arm appears to be. Long arms is always a good sign that a Bigfoot sighting may actually be legit. Also, judging from the sunlight, most people have given this sighting the seal of approval. However, it's the other arm that causes doubt, as it seems to be incomplete, leading many to dismiss this as AI. Mike has stated that even though it was sort of scary to know such a big and mysterious creature was living around him, it also filled him with a sense of excitement. Like most people, Mike couldn't fully comprehend what he would do if he ever came up close to one. After all, every time someone stumbles upon the big man, they're usually met with a sense of panic, and even if they somehow manage to snap a photo or video, they are always blurry or shaky. While we weren't able to find much about where Mike lives, it really made us here at Barely Afraid wonder, is it safe to say that wherever Mike lives, that Bigfoot lives there too? Sweeping in, we arrive in the state of Washington on October 17th of 2025. As the story goes, a hiker was out in the Washington wilderness when out of nowhere they were stopped dead in their tracks by something they still can't explain. With a silent movement, the hiker whipped out their phone to record the following video. In the video, you can see a large dark figure seemingly unaware of the hiker's presence. As it walks, it seems rather stiff in posture, where most Bigfoot are said to have a hunched stature. Many people find the stride and walking movement unnatural, and skeptics have jumped at this claim without a second to lose. Many skeptics offer this as a product of AI. Going further, they state that the figure is way too slow to be the elusive legend as well. The way the apparent Sasquatch rigidly makes its way into the Washington fog does give some credibility to this debate. However, believers aren't so quick to accept this offering. Instead, they chime back, stating that this might simply be an older Bigfoot, which would atone for the strange sense of movement and even speed of the creature. They even state that an older Bigfoot could be the reason the dark figure didn't see the hiker. Continuing on a step further, the believers even attribute the fog presence as the very reason the being felt comfortable wandering off, as it's speculated the being may have thought the fog cover would have been enough to hide its escape. It is important to note the figure's long arms, as this trait is usually associated with more valid Bigfoot sightings. While it's still uncertain if this is an actual Bigfoot or just another hoax, there is one thing that's for sure. We need you to decide. Is this a real sighting? Or is it just a Halloween costume, two conspirators, and a camera? You are the only one who can decide. Rolling into possibly our most controversial clip of the video, we arrive in the South Cascades of the Cascades mountain range, where a hiker with a camera had set out to capture the beauty of nature, but instead captured something else. As the hiker began to snap pictures of the looming environment, they noticed a rather human-looking rock formation just out in front of them. With a sense of intrigue, the hiker snapped a quick photo with their camera and continued on their way. However, it wasn't until they looked back that they realized just what they had captured. Upon zooming into the picture, the hiker was shocked to notice all the lifelike features this supposed rock formation possessed. Zooming in for ourselves, we can see what appears to be a large adult Bigfoot seemingly doing its best to blend into its natural surroundings. You can see what appears to be the face of the Sasquatch, which has the characteristics of a large brow ridge and an overall ape-like facial construction. The hair of the being is thick and dark brown, while the skin of the figure seems to better resemble the natural color of the trees. Its eyes are deep set, hidden underneath its brow ridge, and you can even see from this angle that the back appears to be rounded or hunched like most Bigfoot are said to be. Many believers are ecstatic at this sighting. After all, it's definitely not a bear. And if it is a suit, then it's one of the finest suits we've ever seen. Bigfoot are known for being natural chameleons in their habitats. Blending in and remaining unseen is a common skill shared amongst our big friends. Of course, if you look at the details of other sightings, this Bigfoot follows suit with most of those descriptions. Revisiting the sighting in their mind, the hiker then remembered that as soon as the picture was taken, the figure seemed to vanish and duck out of sight. They say it was just a random chance that they looked at that spot and decided to take a picture. If they hadn't had that gut feeling, then they definitely wouldn't have noticed the supposed Sasquatch hiding in the deep trees and foliage. When the hiker took the picture, they uploaded it anonymously. Instead of seeking fame or monetary gain, the hiker admitted that they just simply wanted to get this image out into the world. This is where the question of hoax or real becomes a debate. Many believers point out that if this was fake, then why wouldn't the hiker want a recognition? After all, when most people hoax a Bigfoot sighting, it's for their own personal gain, whereas this hiker simply wished to stay out of the limelight. Then there are the skeptics who say this is just another costume or suit. Some even go as far to point out this looks an awful lot like Donkey Kong, the beloved Mario character. Breaking the image down further, it's important to remember that the Cascades mountain range, where this was taken, is home to so many Bigfoot sightings spanning back many years. Going to the goal of the hiker, it's said that the fact that they were simply trying to take in nature and snap a few photos is what gives this sighting more credibility. The fact that they weren't out searching for Bigfoot points to a random chance encounter rather than a fabricated one. While most believers are ready to crown this as the clearest picture as well as evidence of the big creature's existence, there are the ones who criticize the image out loud, calling it too good to be true. To that we point out that whenever a blurry Bigfoot sighting is presented, everyone complains about it being blurry. Whenever a clear sighting is presented, everyone elects it fake. To this we ask you the following questions. Is this the clearest photo of Bigfoot ever taken? Is this just another fabricated hoax? And will someone who submits Bigfoot evidence ever truly be able to win? Or are they destined to only be the victims of online scrutiny? Maybe now we know why the hiker wanted to remain anonymous. The conclusion is left to you. Before going into the next sighting, we'd like to remind everyone that if you have any Bigfoot stories or sightings, we'd love to hear and see them. Feel free to send them in at bearlyafraid@gmail.com. Also check out our brand new store and website. Find out why Bigfoot is always blurry, and pick up a new shirt from our new I Believe collection. Every view, like, and purchase helps the channel, and allows us to keep bringing you the best Bigfoot sightings out there. Thank you again for being a part of our Barely Afraid family. Arriving somewhere deep in the forests of British Columbia, Canada, we land where a man named Harley Hoffman is driving along a rural stretch of road when something strange catches his attention near the tree line. He stops his vehicle, grabs his camcorder, and begins recording. Through the viewfinder, a massive, fur-covered figure can be seen moving along a wooded hillside. Zooming in, he recorded what appeared to be a 7 to 8 foot tall figure covered in dark hair. It was walking on 2 legs up a small slope, its posture slightly hunched, its gait smooth and heavy. Its long arms swing at its sides, and its thick dark hair ripples with each step. It never runs. It doesn't seem startled. It simply walks with purpose, glancing toward the camera before vanishing behind the brush. That short clip would later become known as the Harley Hoffman footage, and for years, it's been one of the most debated videos in the Bigfoot community. It is important to mention that this sighting isn't new, but rather over 2 decades old. Hoffman claimed he filmed the creature by accident sometime around 2001, but didn't release it until 2006. Unlike many other alleged Bigfoot sightings, this one was captured in broad daylight, with enough clarity to show the creature's proportions and movement in detail. When Hoffman shared the footage several years later, it caused a stir online. Supporters said it was some of the clearest modern evidence of Bigfoot ever recorded. A shot too clean, too natural, to have been faked. They pointed to the creature's fluid movement and natural muscle definition, saying it looked nothing like a costume. Even the fur seemed to flow and shift with motion rather than hang like fabric. To believers, the video was undeniable, proof that Bigfoot wasn't just a story told around campfires. But skeptics saw things differently. They noticed the video's odd timeline, supposedly filmed in 2001, yet not released publicly until 2006. No one could verify the location, the date, or even much about Hoffman himself. Some claimed the creature's fur looked synthetic, more like a costume or ghillie suit than an unknown primate. Others pointed out that despite the footage being relatively clear, no follow-up evidence was ever found. No footprints, no witnesses, no second video. And as the years went on, Hoffman himself disappeared from spotlight, leaving only the footage behind and no answers. The Harley Hoffman footage continues to divide believers and skeptics alike. For some, it remains one of the most convincing pieces of visual evidence in Bigfoot history, captured in full light, detailed, and hauntingly human in movement. For others, it's just another modern myth, a clever hoax from an unknown source that took on a life of its own. More than 2 decades later, no one has ever proven what Harley Hoffman filmed that day. Now you are faced with that same decision. Is this footage legit, or is it too good to be true? Flying in, we land in the state of Arizona inside a canyon near Xanadu. The photo was apparently taken in the Navajo Nation near cornfields and greasewood back in late 2024. It was taken by an older woman who was out with her livestock when she began to hear strange noises. As she lifted her head to investigate the direction of the strange audio, her eyes immediately fell upon the Bigfoot-like beast. She recalls that the supposed Sasquatch met her gaze, but made no apparent action to close the distance toward her. In a shocked and rather panicked state, the woman snapped this photo before hurriedly shooing her livestock away and exiting the location herself. After reaching her homestead, she told her family about the sighting, to which some younger relatives of hers began to load up rifles in an attempt to go deal with the mysterious figure. However, before they could go after the creature, they were told to leave it alone, and forbidden from pursuing it as the other members of the family elected it would be best to stray from any more interaction with the supposed Bigfoot. Apparently, this wasn't the only sighting of the beast, as it was later said that the figure was spotted again a few days later. It was also stated that this kind of occurrence is not unusual on their part of the reservation. A younger relative of the woman states that they've been told for years that if you see one of these beings to leave them alone, and to always walk in a group and with some sort of protection just in case. Going back to the image, it's been speculated that this Bigfoot looks as though it is either attempting to hide and stay out of sight, or the more creepy theory, that it is peeking out at the woman as she tends to her livestock. If you look at the natural flow of the body, this Bigfoot does seem to have a rounded back, which is very common among Bigfoots. Zooming in closely to its face, it seems as though you can make out an eye, mouth, and quite possibly even 2 ears. However, it is notable to point out that this sighting has faced its scrutiny in the past. While there are many claiming man in a suit, there is also the theory of pareidolia. If you aren't familiar with the term, pareidolia is the tendency to perceive familiar patterns, like faces or figures, in random or unrelated stimuli. One person online speculates that it simply looks like the dark section, or the Bigfoot section, is just a darkened part of this log. This would mean that the Bigfoot is simply an illusion, or a trick on the eyes. While other people joke that it looks as though this Bigfoot is writing something down, it really makes you wonder. After all, Native Americans, especially the Navajo tribe, have an extensive history with the spirit world and spiritual beings such as Bigfoot. Their legends go back to even before Europeans made contact with the New World. Oral traditions describe these beings as spiritual or guardian entities connected to the land and the supernatural. Some stories even describe them as the protectors of sacred areas, and that when you encounter them, you have unknowingly entered into a place of strong spiritual power. However, whether or not the legends are true isn't what we have come to decide. Instead, we wonder out loud if this sighting is indeed true. Is this just a person in a suit? Is it just pareidolia playing a joke on our human eyes? Or is it actually a Bigfoot that was caught out in the Arizona wilderness? You decide. Swooping in, we catch a ride back in time once again, this time to the year 2009, our destination, Temagami, Ontario, Canada. A woman named Jane, or Jeanie, Hiebert is spending the day opening up her family's cottage for the spring season. It's quiet, the kind of stillness you only find deep in northern Ontario, surrounded by endless pine and cold air rolling off the lake. As she's unpacking supplies and checking the property, something catches her attention near the tree line, a shape standing motionless just beyond the clearing. She calls her husband, who then grabs their camera and snaps a photo. In these first 2 images, you can see what appears to be a tall, dark figure standing upright among the trees. It's covered in hair, broad-shouldered, and positioned as if it's watching the cottage, or at least the surrounding area. Jeanie later said the figure stood perfectly still, almost blending into the woods, silent, patient, and unnerving. Within seconds, it was gone. According to Jeanie, the large being would come back about 15 minutes later, allowing them to snap one final photo. These photos quickly spread online, dubbed one of the clearest sightings of a Bigfoot ever captured in Canada. Believers pointed to the creature's height and proportions, claiming it matched other Sasquatch descriptions from northern Ontario. Jeanie would say they estimated the beast to be 10 feet tall. However, this is where the story gets even more interesting. No one could find any record of Jeanie or Jane Hiebert. There were no interviews, no newspaper mentions, no witness statements, and no trace of the original uploader beyond reposts. The only thing linking her to the story was a single name attached to a Facebook photo caption. There are a select few people who claim to know the Hieberts and say they would never fake something like this, but even still there are no records to prove the Hieberts' existence. Even the location, Temagami, Ontario, couldn't be verified. The photo showed no landmarks or unique identifiers, just forest. It could have been anywhere. To this day, no original file with metadata has ever surfaced, meaning there's no camera info, date stamp, or proof of where or when it was taken. Even without proof, the photos refuse to fade away. They reappear every few years under different titles: the Temagami Bigfoot, the Ontario Sasquatch, and simply Jean's creature. Each time, the story shifts slightly, yet the images stay the same: a silent figure watching from the trees. For believers, it represents a moment of authenticity, a brief, accidental encounter captured by someone who wasn't searching for fame. For skeptics, it's a reminder of how easily the internet can turn a single photograph into modern folklore. To this day, the photos remain a mystery. There's no confirmed location, no full identity of the photographer, and no follow-up images ever found. Still, the picture endures, a frozen moment in time that continues to divide believers and doubters alike. So what side are you on? Is this real? Or is this sighting and Jeanie all a fabricated hoax connected to something even bigger? You be the judge. Crashing in, we travel back in time to the year 2000, our destination, Okeechobee, Florida. The air is thick, heavy with humidity and the sounds of cicadas. Out here, in the middle of the Big Cypress National Preserve, a man named Dave Shealy, a lifelong resident of the Everglades and self-proclaimed skunk ape researcher, climbs onto his hunting platform overlooking a vast field of sawgrass. For years, he's claimed that something massive roams these swamps, something locals call the skunk ape, a southern cousin of Bigfoot known for its foul odor and its habit of disappearing before anyone gets too close. When Shealy was just 10 years old, he says he saw the skunk ape for the very first time. He and his brother were out exploring the swamp behind their home in Okeechobee, Florida, when a massive, hairy figure stepped out from the trees about 100 yards away. As the sun begins to dip below the tree line, Shealy notices movement in the tall grass, a dark shape shifting between the reeds. He grabs his handheld camcorder, steadying it against the railing, and begins to film. At 7:21 p.m., the timestamp on the footage locks in. In the video, a large, upright figure emerges from the brush, walking slowly and deliberately across the clearing. It stands around 7 feet tall, its arms long and heavy, its movements deliberate but unnatural, almost too smooth for a man trudging through thick swamp. Its dark silhouette cuts against the fading orange light of the evening sky. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, the figure vanishes behind a cluster of cypress trees, swallowed by the swamp. To this day, Shealy swears the footage is real, and that he captured the Florida skunk ape on camera. Of course, skeptics have been tearing the Dave Shealy skunk ape footage apart for years, and their arguments come down to a few key points. Many believe the figure in the video simply moves too much like a person. Its stride, arms swing, and posture look human, not animal. The way it walks through the swamp, upright, steady, and seemingly unfazed by the thick sawgrass, led critics to suggest it's nothing more than someone in a costume, possibly even Shealy himself or a friend helping stage the shot. Others point out that the footage was filmed from a long distance, making it hard to judge size, depth, or detail. Without any clear reference points or a second angle, there's no reliable way to confirm the creature's height or even its shape, just a dark silhouette against the field. Some researchers who've analyzed the clip also note that the lighting and resolution conveniently obscure the figure's features, giving it that perfect cryptid blur that fuels doubt. They argue that if Shealy truly saw a creature that close to his home, he would have been able to capture more footage, clearer shots, or physical evidence. However, Bigfoot believers around the world aren't willing to take these criticisms lying down. They point out that the Big Cypress Swamp is one of the harshest environments in Florida: chest-deep water, thick sawgrass, and endless mosquitoes. To them, no one would willingly walk that far into the swamp in a costume just to fake a video. They also note the creature's long, steady stride and how naturally it moves across uneven ground, as a point to the video being real as opposed to it being fake like the skeptics try to point out. Another fact the believers present is that the footage was filmed in broad daylight, giving it a rare clarity that most Bigfoot clips lack, and everything about the timestamp and location checks out with the conditions Shealy described. And perhaps most convincing of all, Shealy has never changed his story. For more than 2 decades, every detail has stayed the same. No contradictions, no confessions, and no proof that anyone else was involved. However, the decision on whether Shealy really encountered the skunk ape on this day or not isn't up to us. It's up to you. Is this a real sighting, or just another prank? The deliberation rests in your hands. If you enjoyed tonight's countdown, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Have a creepy clip or ghost encounter of your own? Drop it in the comments or send it to our email that just might appear in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep your lights on tonight. You never know what might be standing in the dark.